It's Hatch Chili season in France. Well, not really, but we did have an American visitor show up with a ton of fresh Hatch chilies from New Mexico. So today we are doing a smoked Hatch chili and garlic cream soup. Hey guys, thanks for joining us. If this is your first time tuning in, let us know you're out there by giving us a big thumbs up below and then hit that subscribe button to make sure you never miss a video. Now, let's start cooking. Well, I am very excited about this recipe today. It's not very often that you get a chance to make Hatch soup in France. So today we are making this Hatch green chili, and we're actually going to smoke them. And I know it says green chili, but and I know some of these are red, but Hatch green chilies start out, of course, as green, and they turn redder as they grow and as they age. But anyhow, so our ingredients for this soup are just some Hatch chilies, and we're making probably a portion for about 12 people. So I've got about 6 of these peppers, and I've tasted them, and a couple of them are pretty spicy. So this is kind of the same recipe. I don't know if you've seen my jalapeno and garlic soup recipe, but this is a similar recipe. Hatch chilies vary widely in strength. So these are probably about a medium jalapeno strength, from about a lower jalapeno spiciness to a medium jalapeno spiciness. So we've got our Hatch green chilies here, or our Hatch chilies, and we've got some garlic. And now when I'm in the United States, I usually use elephant garlic, the big cloves, but I can't find that here, so I'm just using 2 large bulbs of garlic, and we are going to smoke those and the chilies, and we've got a couple of onions that we're going to also smoke. So these are our chilies. Look at those, they're just beautiful. And now you see a third onion here, and this onion we're just going to leave this as a fresh onion, and we're going to use that as part of we're going to sweat that when we start our soup. And then we've got a little bit of butter here so that we can get our onions and our vegetables sweated. And then our seasonings are going to be some ground cumin, and smoked paprika, along of course with some salt and pepper. And then we are going to, once we saute our vegetables or sear our vegetables and get everything going, we're then going to deglaze the pan with some dry sherry, or this is actually a medium dry sherry. And this is a really great way to get some extra flavor into your soup. It's not a sweet sherry, but it just gives a really nice depth of flavor. And don't worry, the alcohol burns off because we will actually cook that out of the soup. And then we'll top it up with some chicken stock. And we may use anywhere from 8 to 12 to 14 cups of chicken stock, depending on the heat of your chilies. So we've got some here, but we can always add more to that. And then we're going to finish this with a little mixture of cream and eggs, or egg yolks. And it's called an egg yolk liaison. But what that does is just really increases the creaminess of your soup. So those are our ingredients. Let's start cooking. Okay, so for our ingredients, we've got our Hatch chilies here, we've got our onions, and we've got our garlic. What I like to do with the garlic is I just trimmed the tops of the garlic here, and we're just going to coat those with a little bit of olive oil for smoking. Okay. And everything else we can leave dry. It'll be just fine. Okay, so what we'll do now is we're going to take this out to the smoker, and we'll let them smoke probably 20-30 minutes just to get that wonderful flavor, and hopefully get some char on our peppers if they're not charred enough. Because what we need to do is we need to make the skins need to make this where we can remove the skins. So at the end of smoking, we may need to put these over a little bit more heat, more fire to char them so that we can remove the skins. So let's head out to the grill. Okay, we're at our grill. We're actually using our grill kind of as a smoker today. And right now we're on about 150 degrees centigrade, which is a little bit hotter than we want. We really want that's almost about 300 degrees Fahrenheit. We want to bring that down a little bit, so I'm going to close it down just a little bit and create a little bit less heat, but we should have some nice smoke. So let's, yeah, we've got some wonderful smoke going, and so we'll put our chilies in. And our onions and our garlic. And we will let these guys start the smoking process. Our chilies and onions and garlic have now been smoking for about 20-25 minutes, and we actually turned the temperature down to about 275, which is about what we want. And so when I opened this, I did come out and I turned the peppers one time, just so we can get char on both sides. When I open this, we're going to put our peppers in this bowl, and then we're going to cover that with, you could either use cling film or you can use aluminum foil. We're going to cover it with aluminum foil so that they can start sweating, and we'll be able to peel the skins off. And as you can see, I've added a few things. You know, if you're starting your grill or your smoker, you may as well put some other things on that smoker. So I've got some tomatoes, and I'm smoking for some smoked tomato and basil soup, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, check out my video right above for that smoked tomato and basil soup. So our peppers are in here. We're just going to try to create a pretty tight environment, and we want these peppers now to steam, and we should be able to easily pull those skins off. So now we'll just take everything off. Our garlic, actually we're going to leave our garlic on for a few more minutes. We want that to get a little bit softer, and our onions as well, although they have a nice smoke flavor already, you can tell. And we'll come out and get those once we get our peppers peeled. So now these peppers are going to sit for about 15 or 20 minutes, and we'll be ready to go inside and peel them. Okay, so our peppers are roasted and they're smoked, and we've got them peeled, and we will move on with our recipe. But before we do that, I thought I'd talk just a little bit about Hatch chilies. So as I said, you know, Hatch chilies are special because they really only grow in one place in the world, and that's the Hatch Valley in New Mexico, or at least that is the perfect, what's called terroir for them. But Hatch chili peppers are similar to, you know, getting a Hatch pepper is similar to getting a Napa Valley wine or a champagne. It can only come from one place, and can only come from a Hatch Valley, New Mexico. Now, not that you couldn't plant the seeds somewhere else, but it's a different environment, it's a different climate, it's different soils, all those things. So those are some of the things that make Hatch chili special. The other thing is they have a very short season. Hatch chilies are generally planted around April, and they're harvested the latter part of July, August, early September. So really it's about a 2-month harvest of Hatch chilies. And if you're ever in New Mexico during that harvest time, you get to go to Hatch chili festivals all over the place. They are roasting them outside stores, etc., etc., etc. Because of that short season, there's several ways that you can preserve your Hatch chilies throughout the year. So what I've done is I've got several bags here that I've just vacuum sealed whole, and they are raw. And then I've got some bags that I have roasted, and these are roasted. They're not peeled, but they have been roasted and vacuum sealed as well. And then I've got some chopped ones that I've roasted and peeled. And these are the chilies that you find in something like a Rotel tomato, which we can't, of course, find in France. So I have these, and I'll be able to just use these throughout the year whenever I want to make a Mexican rice, or do something with a chopped Hatch chili. So those are several of the ways that you can preserve these, and all of these can be frozen and they will last 12 to 18 months in the freezer. So those are some ideas of what you can do with your Hatch chilies. Moving on with our recipe. Now, as you can see, we've removed our Hatch chilies from the smoker and we have peeled them. We started out with, 6 to 7 Hatch chilies that were like this, and we have now peeled them. We've taken the skins off and we've basically de-seeded them. And this is what we're left with. Now, and these are the skins, and we will just toss that away in a minute. Now, the thing that you want to make sure you do when you're, anytime you're working with any kind of peppers, because we don't really know how hot they are, I would suggest using gloves and not touching your face during the time that you're working with them. So those are our chili peppers, and what we're going to do now is, because we roasted our garlic in the skins, or nice and roasted, they're nice and soft. We're now able to just squeeze this garlic and have it come out of the skins, which is really, really nice. And the flavor of this is just phenomenal. And now you can just toss the rest of that bulb away. And then the same with this one. And now we'll wash our hands and we'll continue on. Okay, moving on with our recipe. What we're going to do now is, we've got, we reserved one of our onions, just a fresh onion. So what we're going to do now is we're going to slice that onion, and we are going to saute this onion by itself, and then we will add the other onions to it. All right, so just nice, fairly thin slices of our onion. And we've got our heat on. I'm going to put down a little bit of oil in our pan, and this is really just to keep the butter from burning. And then we will put, I'm going to start with about a tablespoon of butter. And now we're just going to put our fresh onions in and let those saute until they're nice and soft. And we're not really trying to brown these onions. It's not going to hurt anything if they get a little bit caramelized, but that is just to kind of give us our soup base. So we'll let those get going, and in the meantime, we'll go ahead and slice up our other onions, and we can continue with the recipe. Okay, so we've got our onions starting to soften. And as always, we add a little bit of salt when we are sweating onions. And again, we just want to get these nice and soft, and we don't mind if there's a little bit of color on them at all. That's fine. And that's really what we want right there. And now we can add the rest of our onions. So we will let our onions cook for just a little bit, and then we'll add our garlic. Okay, our onions are nice and coated with the butter and the oil. So now it's time to add our peppers and our garlic. And if you don't have Hatch chilies, you can certainly do this with some other chilies. It's going to be probably a different flavor. Hatch chilies they're not famous because of their heat. They're famous because of their flavor. They just have a different flavor than other, chilies. But you could certainly substitute some Anaheim chilies, some of the California chili peppers. And of course, you could certainly do this same recipe with jalapeno chilies. And it's just a matter of balancing the heat with the flavor. And the thing that's going to help with that, of course, is going to be the amount of chicken stock or vegetable stock, whichever stock you'd like to use in that, and the amount of heavy cream that you put in it, because you really do need to balance it out, because otherwise it can be quite acidic. So we just want to let this cook for a little bit, make sure everyone is Getting some of that butter flavor on there. And then we're going to deglaze our pan. What we're going to do is make sure that our heat is up fairly high, because now what we're going to do is deglaze our pan. And deglazing just means to pour in some kind of liquid. Deglazing helps to loosen anything that's been maybe stuck on the bottom of the pan. But then, because this is alcohol, we are going to actually cook this out. So we're going to add this to our pot, and probably about 1/4 cup is what we added. And we want to bring this to a boil, and then we want to cook this until it's almost dry. Because what we want to do is cook the alcohol out, but it will still leave the wonderful flavor of this sherry, and imparts just a wonderful deep flavor. And as you can tell, it doesn't take much to do that. So we will let that cook away for 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll be ready to add the rest of our liquid. Okay, now that our wine is deglazed and starting to evaporate, we're going to go ahead and add our seasoning. So we'll add our smoked paprika and our ground cumin. And of course, you do this to taste. I've got it in the ingredients listed below. There's going to be a suggested amount, but you certainly want to do this according to your taste. And let's season with a little bit of black pepper. We won't do any salt just yet. We'll save that until closer to the end. Okay. Whew, what an incredible aroma. Okay, now let's go in with our chicken stock. And as I assumed earlier, we're going to need all the stock that we made today. So we literally just want to bring this to the boil, and once this comes to boil, we will turn it down and let it simmer for 20 or 30 minutes until the soup is done. Okay, we are now boiling, and so what we'll do, get everything nice and stirred in. And what I like to do at this point is just give it a taste for heat. We're not really going for flavor or anything like that just yet. Oh, it's fantastic already. And it's literally just chicken broth flavored with, smoked onions and garlic and Hatch chilies and paprika and cumin. It is fantastic. It's quite a thick flavor. So now what we're going to do is just turn this down, and we're just going to simmer this. And what we're looking for now is just for the vegetables to get very, very soft, so that when we blend it, everything is nice and smooth. So we'll turn this down. We'll just put our lid on just a little bit, and we will let that cook for probably 20-25 minutes. We have come to the boil, and now we've been simmering for about 20 minutes, actually about 25-30 minutes, and this soup is ready to be blended. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn the heat off. All right, and we're going to use our submersible blender, and we're just going to blend this until it's nice and smooth. And if you don't have a submersible blender, the next best thing, of course, would be using a stand blender, but you would need to do this in stages. Anytime you have a hot liquid and you're using a stand blender, you need to really make sure that you only fill it about, a little bit less than halfway, just because of the force from the heat and the buildup of steam can be very dangerous. So you would just do it in stages, and we're going to be transferring this to another pot anyhow. So you could blend part of this in your blender, pour that into a separate pot, and continue in that same vein. Okay, we should be good to go here. And let's just give it a little bit of a taste. Oh, nice, beautiful consistency. Okay. Wow, it's already really quite balanced. We may not even need any more salt, but we will see as we get closer to finishing the soup. So what we'll do now is we're going to strain this into another pot here, and you know, to be careful, you could certainly do this using a ladle, or you could do it the way I just did it and just pour it into your second pot, and then you can use your ladle to just force everything through. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat on, because in a second we're going to add our cream, and we want to get this to start thickening up. And this is I'm using a fine mesh strainer, and this is a really high quality strainer. And I'll put a link down below if you're interested in a strainer like this, because it'll last a lifetime. You can put it down in the bottom of your pot, and the thing about it is it's just very, very stable, and it takes a lot of abuse when you're cooking a lot and forcing things through. This is actually called a China cap sieve, or a chinois in French. And we'll just continue with putting everything through. Okay, we have our soup transferred, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to whisk in just a little bit of heavy cream, and probably about a half cup. What this does is it actually just kind of takes the edge off of it a little bit, and it will help it to start to begin the thickening process. So now we just want to let this come to the boil, thicken up a little bit, and then we'll taste it for seasoning and for consistency. Let's just It is just fantastic. So we will let this go for a minute, let it thicken up, and then we'll finish it off. Our soup has now been simmering for about 10-15 minutes, and it is nice, and it's starting to thicken up a little bit. And now this soup is actually fine, just like it is. You could adjust it for salt, etc. if you need to, but we're just going to go one little extra step, and this is called an egg yolk liaison. And it's really just a matter of mixing. We've got about a cup of heavy cream and 2 egg yolks, and we are just going to whisk those together. And I can tell already we probably won't need to use all of this mix, but we'll mix those together. So I'm stirring in a little bit of the soup just to temper the egg yolks, and so that they don't start curdling. And we're just going to whisk those, and we are going to now strain a part of this back into our soup. And we can determine if we need more in a minute, but now I'm just going to turn the heat back up. And this will not only serve to thicken our soup a little bit more, but it really just gives it that really silky finishing touch that you have when you go to a restaurant and you eat a really fine soup or a velouté, something like that. So we want to bring this to a nice simmer, and then it will start to just slightly thicken up a little bit. And once this comes to the simmer, we will then finish our adjustments for salt. If we need to add a little bit of balsamic vinegar, I've got balsamic vinegar in the recipe, and balsamic vinegar is used, it's kind of like lemon juice. It's an acid. You know, if things are a little bit too heavy and you want to just brighten things up a little bit, you can always add a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Honestly, having tasted this throughout the process of making it, I really don't think we're going to need it today. All right, this soup is ready to go. And look how nice and thick it is now. It's bubbling up a little bit. We are ready to serve this up. Let's just give it one more taste for balance. And what we're tasting for now is the balance of the salt and the creaminess, as well as the spiciness. So here we go. And this soup is actually best enjoyed when it has cooled down a little bit. It doesn't need to be screaming hot because of the spice. It's just the heat, the temperature can overwhelm the flavor if it's too hot. So I'm gonna let this cool down just a little bit. Oh, it is absolutely right there. Okay, let's serve it up. All right, our soup is ready to go, and I'm telling you what, it smells fantastic. We finished it with a little bit of creme fraiche on top, and just some cilantro leaf. And let's give it a try. The first thing that hits your mouth when you are just to hit your senses is that incredible depth of flavor from the smoke, a little bit of the spiciness from the Hatch chilies. It's not overly spicy. As I said before, this soup needs to be enjoyed more on the lukewarm side than the really hot side, because the heat, the temperature will definitely override the flavor of the Hatch chilies and the spice. But it's just wonderful, you know, mixing in a little bit of that sherry gives it that depth of flavor. And we've paired this today with a really, really special wine. This is a Chenin Blanc wine, and most Chenin Blancs from the Loire Valley here in France are what you would call an off-dry or a medium sweet wine. This one is actually a sweet wine, and normally I don't, prefer sweet wines, but with something like this, with the nice smoky flavor and the little spiciness from it, as in is also if you were going to eat something like a foie gras with a really, really deep flavor, this wine is just absolutely spectacular. And it is, this wine has been aged in oak barrels for 15 months, hand-picked over 6 different passes in the field. And so it's a really, really special wine. I don't know if if you can find this particular kind of wine in the United States, but this one is just, it's very, very special. If you can't, Chenin Blanc is the grape. And like I said, most Chenin Blanc grapes are wines produced in the Loire Valley, or medium sweet, off-dry, medium sweet. So anyhow, a wonderful pairing for this soup. I really hope you'll give this soup a try. Hope you liked the video. If you did like the video, give us a thumbs up down below, and be sure and subscribe to our channel. And when you subscribe, ring that bell to make sure you never miss a video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Taste it right now. Did the wrong thing.